Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Heisman Talk, your number one source of college football news on YouTube. I'm Nate Dogg, here with my co-host, Denair D. Jackson. D, it's time to jump right into it. Over the past week or so, we've discussed preseason power rankings for the SEC, the Big Ten, and the Big 12. Today, we're going to discuss the Pac-12 out west. And as you can see, I'm wearing my fluorescent West Coast shirt. D, the Pac-12 really hasn't been relevant over the past several years. Most would say due to lack of primetime TV timing. But this year, they could shake up a few things. Now, we know about the new alliance between the Pac-12, ACC, and Big Ten, and we'll discuss that further when we find out more. And that could help them possibly with primetime TV. But in the meantime, there's several teams contending for the championship game this year. Our top two teams are the Oregon Ducks and the USC Trojans. And of course, there's always a few teams on the outside looking in. So without further ado, D, let's get into it. Our first team, like we said, is the Oregon Ducks. They're pre-ranked pretty high in the preseason polls, and they've got probably one of the best defensive players, if not the best defensive players in the nation, and that is Kayvon Thibodeaux, defensive end, who's projected to go first in the NFL draft. But D, there's several other players on that team that could really make a push for this Oregon Ducks. D, give me your thoughts on the Oregon Ducks this year and what they can do in the Pac-12 and possibly even the college football playoff.
Man, the Oregon Ducks are, obviously the best program in the Pac-12. I think if everybody had, everybody from the outside looking in, it's like, that's the team, that's the team to beat. Those guys have been the, perennial best program in that conference for a pretty long time. So I think that, Mario Cristobal came in and kind of upped that. I think they were kind of falling off. And I think this year, I think that they'll once again win the Pac-12 championship. Like we said, I think it'll be, like we were talking about, it's going to be probably Oregon versus USC in the championship game. And I think Oregon will win it, man. They have, like you said, the stud in Kayvon Thibodeaux, man, he's just a load to deal with. But they also have a lot of talented offensive players. But defensively, I think they'll definitely is where they'll lay their hat because with guys like Justin Flo and Noah Sewell that are coming in, very, very talented defenders. And, having, talent like that on that defensive side of the ball is going to be very, very tough for any team to, knock off Oregon. So I'm definitely going with Oregon to win the Pac-12 championship.
Yeah, indeed. Like you said, all eyes on Kayvon Thibodeaux and what he's going to do this year. But you also mentioned a few of the freshmen coming in, and Noah Sewell and Justin Flo. Those are two guys that could really make a huge difference for the Oregon Ducks this year, defensively. And then you turn your head to the offensive side of the ball, D, with Joe Moorhead as the offensive coordinator, and they've got a quarterback battle brewing over in Oregon between freshman quarterback Ty Thompson and senior quarterback Anthony Brown. Now, most are projecting Anthony Brown to be the starter by week one. There's no starter yet named by Mario Cristobal. But Ty Thompson was, I think, the number 2 dual threat quarterback in the nation coming out of high school this past year. So if he has a great fall camp, he could take Anthony Brown for a run for his money. And then on top of that, you look at some of the running backs they have. Now, they have veteran running backs in C.J. Verdell and Travis Dye, who are both, your typical Oregon speedsters, right? They're 5'8", 5'10", very quick around the edge, known for that Oregon spread offense. But D, this new line of running backs coming in, they're dynamic. They've got speed and power, both over 6 foot. Look out for Stephen McGee and Byron Cardwell, both true freshmen for the Oregon Ducks. This is a new breed out in the Pac-12 that could really make some noise.
Yeah, man, two very, very, talented guys, two very, very talented running backs. Like you were talking about, I think Anthony Brown will win that job at quarterback. He's a transfer from Boston College, and word is that he's going to win the job. And he had some pretty good plays, in Boston College. He didn't play that much, but when he was in, he was making a pretty good impact. So I think he'll take Oregon to where they need to be this year. That along with that defense, man, I don't see anybody else knocking them off.
Yeah, indeed. That's our prediction for the Pac-12 North. We head down to the Pac-12 South, where we find a team in the USC Trojans who are making a push to kind of get back on the map. Under under head coach Clay Helton, the USC Trojans have kind of declined in terms of national attention over the past few years. They used to be one of the top brands in the nation when you talk about college football, along with Texas and Miami and those kind of teams. But this could be Clay Helton's last year at USC, and he's really going to have to make a push. Now, he does have veteran quarterback senior Caden Slavis, I think I pronounced that right, or Keaton Slavis, who has made great strides, even pushing JT Daniels out of California, sending him to the East Coast to UGA. But, like I said, this is a team that's really going to have to rely on some offensive weapons. What can you tell me about the Trojans and what they can do in 2021 to get back to the Pac-12 championship this year?
Everything starts and stops with the quarterback. When you have a guy like Keaton Slavis, you have a chance to win. You have a chance to win every game. He can really, really sling the ball all around the field. And, I think that USC has a good chance of possibly beating Oregon in the Pac-12 championship because they have a guy like Keaton Slavis. It's going to be we're really going to have to see how their offensive line looks, this upcoming year. They usually have a few talented offensive linemen, so we're going to have to see how they come out and protect Keaton Slavis because, that's a huge investment, Keaton Slavis. So, their defense is a pretty talented defense, led by Drake Jackson, the edge rusher, and, incoming freshman Corey Foreman, who was a, top player in the 2021 class. So, I think that, if everything can come together for them, they can possibly knock off a team like Oregon. I think the Pac-12 is kind of a little bit more up for grabs. So, we'll definitely have to keep our eye on it.
We've been so high on Oregon's defense and how dynamic they are, but don't undermine the USC Trojans defense. Like you said, they're stacked. And I'd also like to mention the sophomore cornerback, Chris Steele. I mean, this is a kid that could really make some noise in the Pac-12. He's considered to be one of the best cornerbacks in the nation, and is projected to rank very high in the pre-draft rankings for 2022 next year for the NFL. So, yeah, they're stacked. And, on the offensive side, look out for Taj Washington, a transfer wide receiver who supposedly has had some really great fall practices and shows a lot of speed to break away from the defense, according to camp reports. So, yeah, USC, again, they've been off the map. This could be their year to make a name for themselves again and get right back into the national attention. And with that being said, we have a few teams in the Pac-12 on the outside looking in as well. We could consider Washington in the Pac-12 North, but, we really believe that Oregon will pretty much dominate the Pac-12 North. But in the Pac-12 South, there's a few teams out there that could make some noise. And Well, and I guess in the North, that's my fault. The Utah Utes are in the Pac-12 North, and dude, that's a team that we really believe can make some noise, especially with transfer quarterback from Baylor, Charlie Brewer. Now, dude, this is a kid who was not the most highly recruited kid out of high school, although he came from a very well recruited high school in Lake Travis out of Austin, Texas. But dude, this kid brings veteran experience now. He has suffered from a lot of injuries, and there's been a lot of reports out there, D, that Utah has some really great depth at the wide receiver position that's scaring some defensive coordinators in the Pac-12. And D, we also mentioned the Arizona State Sun Devils under Herm Edwards. I'm
Yeah, I
sorry,
remember.
Herm Edwards. And they were looking to make a push this year in the Pac-12 South, but unfortunately, they have an off-field investigation going on that could really take away from the talent on the field and draw it away. But what are your thoughts on the Utah Utes and the Arizona State Sun Devils, and are those two teams that could compete against USC or Oregon?
Yeah, man, those are definitely two teams that can compete. The Pac-12 South is kind of up for grabs. I think the Pac-12 in general, like I said earlier, it's kind of up for grabs. When you have two teams like Arizona State, led by Herm Edwards, as you were saying, and you bring back a quarterback like Jaden Daniels, who's an athletic guy who can get outside the pocket and do a lot of different things, with his legs. And you have a lot of talent on that offense, and, they can explode at any point in time. Arizona State can definitely be a team to contend with USC in the Pac-12 South, as well as Utah. Utah, like you were talking about, man, Charlie Brewer. We all know, Charlie Brewer from Baylor and that program, and how he had a lot of concussions, had a lot of injury issues. So Utah is going to have a good offensive line. So it's all about that offensive line really protecting Charlie Brewer, and Charlie Brewer protecting himself, and trying to not get those extra 2 yards, but getting out of bounds. And I know it's hard for a competitor a lot of times, but you got to do what you got to do to be able to protect yourself. So it's really, really important that he protects himself. And if he does do that, they do have weapons, as you were talking about, that can definitely, take Utah over the top. And so, Utah is definitely a team to watch, along with Arizona State, vying for that Pac-12 title with USC. Pac-12 South title.
Yeah, indeed. You make a great point in terms of the Utah Utes and relying on Charlie Brewer. They're really going to have to trust him and taking care of himself and not getting injured again, because if he goes down, we don't know what's going to happen in terms of the quarterback position. So yeah, and dude, just to add, home field advantage is going to be a game changer this year for all of college football. But when you think of the Utah Utes and you're going up there at such high elevation and it's so cold, and you got 20-mile-an-hour winds in November, December, dude, that could play a huge role too as well in the Pac-12 North in terms of title predictions. Well, D, that's a wrap for today. When we come back next week, we'll wrap up our 2-week series of conference power ranking preseason predictions with the ACC. Until then, make sure to subscribe down below, give this video a big thumbs up, and make sure your bell notifications turned on so you can receive the latest news when we post new videos. Get ready, college football is right around the corner. As always, this is Nate Dogg and D signing off.